ES Audio.
The Evening Standard Rugby Podcast with Lawrence Dallaglio, supported by Fuller's London Pride, official beer of Premiership Rugby. Support with pride.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Dallaglio. Welcome to the Evening Standards Rugby Podcast, supported by Fuller's London Pride. It's been an absolutely cracking weekend of rugby, whichever team you support. So we've got plenty to talk about, and I'm delighted to be joined by the voice of Evening Standards Rugby, Steve Cording, and of course, my very glamorous co-presenter, Sarra Elgan. Sarra, we're making quite an experience of joining each other on a Monday and Tuesday for the weekend's rugby.
I know you're much nicer to me on this podcast as well than you are in studio. So yeah, I'm glad I'm doing it. Actually, it's refreshing, Lawrence Dallaglio. And our special guest is the man who captained Exeter to a thrilling win over Harlequins this weekend. If it's the Chiefs hooker, Cowan Dickie. Hey, Luke, how are you feeling?
Yeah, good. A little bit tired from yesterday. More emotionally than anything. But so I'm feeling good, thanks.
Yeah, talking about rescuing victory from the jaws of defeat. Have you kind of recovered from the excitement? What's it like to be part of that game? Because for the fans and the neutrals, it was a brilliant watch. What was it like to be in it for that 80 minutes or 80 plus minutes?
It was good. Obviously, end of the game, the result is all this matters. So, we had a chat after the game, and to get a 5-point victory against any side in the Prem is good going. Obviously, we're largely in front for the first half, going into the second half, and we were quite dominant. So, I think there was mixed emotions. I think, we had to celebrate it for what it was. And then when we get into training tomorrow, we'll then analyse it, because there's quite a few things that didn't go well, but then there was a few things that did. So,
Luke, you've been, Exeter have obviously, you won 3 out of 3, which is fantastic. As you say, the results, especially early season, really important to get 3 wins. But 2 of those at home have both been with the last play of the game when the clock's in the red. You're making that sort of a real habit of this sort of that kind of grandstand finish, if you like. I guess a bit of change in your coaching setup in terms of Rob moving upstairs and Ali taking more of a hands-on role. Talk us through a little bit about pre-season and how that has gone for you guys, because clearly you worked pretty hard during pre-season.
Yeah, so luckily enough, I missed it pretty much most of it anyway. Because the boys are in from blooming 6 a.m. till about 7 p.m. Now they worked hard. We knew after last season we had to sort of rebrand ourselves, just change a few things of what we're doing. And the boys definitely worked hard in season. Obviously, our defensive coach has changed, and the whole system has, and also the attack stuff has changed. So
I was going to say, do you think you're playing any more different? It's obviously subtle changes, but are you playing a bit more differently to the way you did last season? Because there's been a few changes to the law, obviously, so you don't spend as much time 5 yards from the line as maybe you used to in seasons gone by. But do you feel there's a different style about the team at the minute?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, the whole attack system's changed pretty much. So obviously it was fresh for me. On the weekend, I've only really trained 2 weeks, so to fit in was quite tough. But now it's been good. Obviously, we're still good at picking going and 5 yards out. It's just how we adapt to, like you said, the new laws. So we've got a few new things in place. I just feel like the boys are definitely getting on board. I think the first game of the season we played against Leicester and yesterday's game, I think definitely showed our attack off really well.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's us down a little bit against Worcester, but we're all taking shape at the minute. Obviously, we need our defence to start clicking now, and then hopefully it'll be a full performance.
So we like to talk a little bit about with our guests about your sort of journey, which not a lot of our listeners will have understood or know about. But I know that you were born and raised in Cornwall, along with a couple of the other Chiefs players. Just give us a little bit of an insight into what your sort of early rugby journey was all about. Was it something that you were sort of planning? Because I know you come from a fishing family. Maybe you had ideas of being on the boat rather than on the pitch.
Well, to be fair, I didn't really, like you said, my family weren't really rugby orientated. So at first it was more just a hobby. So I started when I was about 4 or 5. Pretty much fishing. There's a lot of fishermen down there. So went out with my dad's boat a couple of times when I was quite young, which wasn't the nicest. So I'm glad obviously this has worked out. So it was pretty much a hobby for me up until the age probably of 15, 16, when the academy, sort of Exeter Academy coaches, Rob and Cowlin, started approaching guys about going to college. Because at that point, obviously, if you didn't approach me, I probably wouldn't have went to college. I probably went on the fishing boats. So yeah, I sort of got a lifeline with him. Went to college, Truro College at Exeter Academy, and then signed pretty much straight after that.
I presume you still keep your hand in and go out on the boats occasionally when Dad asks you to?
No, I got no time for that, mate. All rest, I'm not training.
Do you, Lawrence? Do you fish, Lawrence? Because there's no like Twitter picture like you holding. I know nothing about fish or fishing, but like holding a massive fish.
Yellow tuna. Yeah, that was a very lucky,
okay. Yeah, I was going to say it was a yellow tuna.
That was a very lucky catch, to be honest with you. Billionaire fishing, I think. Put it in.
Hey, Luke. I tell you what, though, if it hadn't worked out for you in rugby, you could have been a pro gamer, couldn't you? were you not like world number one for Call of Duty at some stage, or did I read that wrongly?
No,
I read it ages ago. Okay.
I was injured. I was single. Had a lot of time on my hands. So,
I was single.
So I spent probably the 8 months I was out gaming. So yeah, it would have been good, but obviously you can only game a certain amount when you've got a kid at home. And
when you get back into camp, you and Genji and a few of the other boys that get the console out and have a bit of a go.
Yeah, normally me and Genji normally try and room together because we're normally up a bit later than most people, and we game quite a bit together. So yeah. There is a good group. To be fair, there's a good group of gamers.
Yeah, I bet there is.
Luke, as a proud Cornishman as well, how do you feel about playing in Devon? I grew up in Devon, Kingsbridge, not far away from Exeter. How do you feel about playing in Exeter? And would you love one day to go back and play for the Pirates in the Prem?
Yeah, it would have been nice. Obviously, they had some chances, didn't they, a few years back? It'd be nice if there was a Prem side down in Cornwall, because pretty much most of the guys that are any decent in Cornwall, obviously the Matt Vazies and me and Ozzy, them boys, we all have to move up to here or further to play in sort of top flight rugby. Never managed to play for Pirates when I was younger, because obviously I was on loan to Plymouth, so that was obviously a bit annoying. But yeah, maybe one time in my career, maybe when I'm a lot older and I'm about to retire, then I might pop down there if they're willing to have me. But it would be nice, definitely, to play with the home crowd.
There's quite a few of you, Luke, isn't there? Yourself, Jack Noel, who I know you've obviously grown up with. I think Henry Slade's had a similar journey where you've all kind of grew up in and around the area and then moved over to the Chiefs. Similar story to myself at Wasps when I joined aged 18. There was a whole load of us that have been there right from the start. That builds kind of quite a deep bond and friendship and relationship with a lot of those players.
Yeah, definitely. There's the guys who are playing now. Obviously, the team's changed over the last couple of years a bit, but the core group that we had coming through, we played with each other, age group stuff, England age group stuff. So we've all been quite tight. I've been playing with Nosey since I was about 4. I played with Slady since about 14. Alec Hepburn, the same. There's quite a few of the guys in there. And then as soon as I've been at the Chiefs now 11 years, and we're sort of all in the academy. There's about 5 or 6 of us in the academy, and our goal was to all play for the first team together at the same time, and we made it happen. And now, like you see, I think the success definitely was how Exeter ran the academy to start with, and obviously the quality of guys that we brought through, and then we're all together. And now you can see we're sort of the core of the group.
And we saw that. Sorry, Lo, we saw that emotion as well. You're saying that you're a deep bond and you're all in the academy together. I think the moment I saw that was when you lifted the Champions Cup in Ashton Gate. I felt like it was even more special for you guys, and I think for us watching, because we knew the journey that the core of you had been on, if that makes sense. Was that the moment for you as well, that you were like, we've made it?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Obviously, like previous to that, our Champions Cup sort of run has been awful, and we knew we were building. We're getting into Prem finals, and even that first Prem final that we won, that we got to anyway, shall I say, it was a massive step for us, because there was quite a few of us, like you said, that's been brought up through the academy that was in the team. So I think, the journey, and like you said, the double, I think, was definitely the height of us as an academy guys. At first, we just wanted to play for the first team, and then to win a double with the guys you grew up with, was definitely special. Bit annoying, obviously, crowds weren't there, but but it was still good. I think it just made the moment with your friends, the guys who you grafted all year with, a bit more special. So that's the way of looking at it.
What's the chat been like amongst the boys that Sam Simmons is going to go at the end of the season? How do the rest of the boys feel about that?
To be fair, I only actually properly found out before the game. So there hasn't really been too much chat about it. But yeah, obviously it's disappointing, but people decide to leave and decide to go places for certain reasons, and obviously it's his decision to do that. And I wish him all the best. Obviously, gutted because he's a quality player, but we've got him for another year at our place, so hopefully he'll do some magic for us and win us a few trophies.
Yeah, it was good to see him named in the England squad because, of course, he will be eligible to play in the World Cup, and he's going to go after that. Another player that was in that squad, Jack Knoll, and I think he's your next door neighbour as well. We found a photo of you two. We found a photo.
Yeah, he's literally just over that gate.
We found a photo of you two playing for England age group together, which was very funny. I'm sure we'll flash it up in a minute if I can get Julie to put it up on the screen. But I mean, the lids have obviously changed a little bit since then. Not that I can think about that, but do you have one hairdresser for the pair of you then?
So back in them days, my mum used to cut my hair, so that's why obviously I had my mullet and bleached mullet, whatever really she fancied doing, I had. But now, we've got a barber now in Crediton. His name's Rob. Obviously, it's free cuts, which is major. Anything's free is brilliant. But now, we go to him all the time. So, and again, he's down to do whatever to our hair. As you can tell, a lot of the Exeter boys have strange hairdos. So yeah.
Are you asking a question about hairdos, Lawrence?
No, I'm not, but I am going to ask you about England because it's obviously a very exciting year for you. I know that you don't focus on it straight away, but you are in the squad. You've got a block of 3 kind of parts of the season, really, autumn and then Six Nations, and then obviously, fingers crossed everything goes well for the World Cup. But we had Mike Brown, as you may have heard, as a guest on our podcast last week, and he said that asked Luke about a talent contest he had on the England's 2016 tour to Australia. What was he referring to? Are you a bit of a demon on the karaoke, are you?
No, we're not allowed to talk about that. Basically, it was a little talent test, and it sort of went wrong. Yes, it's for certain. Certainly is only. Sorry about that.
Now, what we won't edit out is your involvement in the England squad. Obviously, it is an exciting year. I know you're not going to get too carried away with it, but is it? I mean, how do you feel about what's going on with the team? There's a lot of changes to that squad, isn't there? I mean, it's obviously there's a few out injured, but it feels like there's a really different feel about it going into this World Cup year.
Yeah, definitely. I think the summer tour was brilliant. We had quite a few changes, but the group itself, the core group was still the same. And I just feel like the way it's weird to say. It's not like it's a sort of a club vibe, but obviously it's not as international. But the way the boys are, the way we knit, there's no cliques. Over the last few years, that's definitely been the best it's been. And even Australia going down first test for us boys, because we had quite a few young boys on the bench too. To come back from that, I think it shows a lot of strengths in the team. So like you said, I'm excited. There's quite a few guys in and out with injuries and stuff like that. But again, there's no disruptions when they come in or they go out, because quite a few boys these days now, we found when we're outside, obviously, of England stuff, you still sort of keep an eye on it. You still sort of chat to the boys. So, the England guys that you're with. So we try and keep in contact. And if you're back in, it's pretty much a seamless switch.
And Lou, you must have a good relationship with Eddie Jones because he played hooker himself. So he must have a little soft spot for you crazy guys in the front row.
Yeah, me and Eddie got on well, mate. Obviously, early on in my career, we didn't go on too well, but now, he's mint, to be fair.
You were saying that like the vibe has changed like recently. What do you think that's down to?
I don't know. I actually don't know. We have certain boys on socials, not drink socials, but just socials, whether it's, go-karting or going cinema and a lot of boys are just buying into that. I think guys just enjoying each other's company. And I think there's definitely a want to win. Everyone wants to win, obviously, but I feel like at the moment the boys are desperate to win. So I definitely feel like that is definitely, put us in the right step.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Lee. We're going to have some more questions for you a little later on, but should we round up the weekend's action then? Should we, gents? Law will start on Friday night. Yeah. So Wasps visiting Bath at the Rec. Both teams looking for their first win of the season. At half-time, the score was 7-13, and it looked like the same old story, didn't it, for Bath? But what a second half. I mean, not one that Wasps fans will want to relive, apart from the final whistle, I'm sure, but it was a crazy game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, listen, it was a difficult week for Wasps players, I would imagine, given all the news off the field. But I think Joe Launchbury, Jack Willis, and the guys got everyone together, and it can go one of two ways, And I think they made sure that it went the right way. They came out the blocks really fast. I just watched the game yesterday, rewatched it, and they played some outstanding rugby, to be honest, which they have done in the first two games. They just haven't done it for the whole match. And I think Wasps, when they're at their best, they've got that ability. As you said, they don't do it easy, do they? I mean, I think they were winning so comfortably at half time, and then all of a sudden Bath come right back into the match. So a lot for Bath to sort of hold on to, but it's a big job to do there. There is a massive job. They are conceding 5 tries a game at least, which suggests that there's an issue culturally to me. I mean, I'm no defence coach, but if you're not getting off the floor and getting yourself back in the game quicker than they are at the moment, you're going to struggle. So I think he's got a big job on his hands, Van Graham, and JP Ferreira, the defence coach. But small steps, I'm sure that they'll look at that and they'll take some positives out of that second half. But I guess you could look at that match and then just say, well, that was a blueprint for the rest of the weekend, because every single game, bar maybe one, was sort of high scoring, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Because on Saturday, Bristol, they continued their winning run. They saw visitors London Irish. What was it? Was it 40 points to 36, I think, the final score there? Ellis Genge, Steve again making his mark for the Bears. It's fair to say that he's already offering kind of talisman status, isn't it, to Pat Lam and his team?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Pat Lam said, even though they've got 14 out of 15 points, he's still not completely satisfied with the way they play, but it's difficult to see where they can improve, probably defensively. But I mean, I think there's obviously a danger of looking at Genji and going, he's the talisman, he's the one who's leading it forward. But there were some outstanding performances from the other Bristol players as well. I mean, I think particularly Harry Randall, Luke Morahan, who both scored tries, really, really played well. And I think they're not just a one-man team. Clearly, he's made a difference in terms of changing that mentality. But I think there are other people to look at. And in terms of Irish, I mean, I think if you're going to buy a season ticket this year, it's probably they're the ones to watch. I mean, first team to 100 points before Chiefs and Quins both got past that mark this weekend, but obviously just need to improve. I think Les Kiss said they had a great start and a great end and a terrible middle. So that's clearly something that they need to work on. But definitely the entertainers of the Premiership anyway.
Luke Ellis Genge, you obviously know him pretty well, I'd have thought. What is it about his personality that, I don't know, I guess people follow, don't they? He had that effect at the Tigers, and now he's having it again with the Bears.
He's quite upfront, so he says what he thinks. He doesn't beat around the bush, and I think that's what you like about him. All of his emotion is basically shown, especially in training and in games. He's quite tough sometimes to build up to a game. He gets a bit more aggressive, a bit more angry as the game gets closer. But that's what you like, especially when he's on your team. You know he's in a good way. But yeah, that's probably what it is. He's just straight up front with you, so you know what you're getting.
Okay, so last Saturday, saw the 250th East Midland derby between Northampton and Leicester. Last week, you predicted Northampton would take that game. You were wrong. I'm just pointing that out for you. But anyway, they started well. Lawrence, didn't they?
That's
but then
problem.
it was Leicester's scrum.
I always used to think as a player, if I'm playing at home against anyone, you're going to win. But you have to believe that, because it's the most important thing about winning is believing that you can win. And to be honest, 20 minutes into the game, so I thought that actually Northampton were not only going to win, but win by a lot.
Well, yeah, same.
They're a very, very accomplished rugby side. They play some very pretty stuff, but what they haven't quite got at the moment is that real kind of under that core of steel that runs through their forward pack. Especially when Courtney Laws went off halfway through the game, he had an HIA. Unfortunately, whether you like it or not, and listen, when I was at Wasps, we played some outstandingly good rugby, but you have the set piece is such a massive part of the game now. And Leicester, as we know, everything starts and finishes with their set piece. And good old Dan Cole and the boys just did a complete job on them, really, and just smashed them to pieces. And it's a bit of a worry for Northampton. You know, they will win more games than they lose. There's no doubt about that. They're a quality side, but their record against the top teams around them, Exeter, Quins, Gloucester and Leicester, is woeful. And the reason it's woeful is because their set piece is not good enough. And they either need to sell a fly half and go and buy a couple of international props, or they need to find a way of staying in games and hanging in games. Listen, I didn't have the best scrum. We didn't have the best scrum at Wasps. And every time we played against Leicester, we just found a way of surviving, if you like, and trying to move the focus of attack away from the scrum. Don't drop the ball, that helps. But I felt for them, but Leicester were magnificent when they, when they hang on in there, and the second half performance was outstanding. Obviously, Freddie Stewart 3 tries, but really it was Dan Cole, Joe Hayes, and the boys that did the job on Northampton.
Sarra pointed it out though in commentary. How small, Luke, is that away dressing room at Northampton? And would that be your motivation to go out there and win? It is tiny.
Looks like a cupboard.
There's quite a few small ones, to be fair. Bath's quite small. Northampton's quite small.
Yeah,
do you know when you go turn up at a ground, they're going to turn up the heating here and it's going to be tiny and there's going to be no room?
Of course.
Yeah, pretty much, mate. That's normally what happens. But if it doesn't happen, you'll be, you're winning. Do you know what I mean? So they're going to have to do something.
So you got it too nice at Sandy Park. They look nice and roomy, those changing rooms, aren't they?
They're actually, they're decent. Yeah, they're actually right, to be fair. I know I do sometimes say we should leave a floater in the toilet. It never gets past, but we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to do that.
You've got a really nice kind of tunnely area though at Sandy Park, haven't you? I love that the gym is to the right as you walk in, and there's always a great playlist playing there. I really enjoy coming to Sandy Park and eating my chocolates in your gym while watching you guys warm up. It's a good place. Can I ask you though, Luke, about kind of Leicester scrum really quickly? Like, how difficult is it to go up against them when they are firing like they were in that second half on Saturday?
Yeah, it's tough. Like Law said, set piece is pretty much everything at the moment. You've seen in our game on the weekend, we managed to win in the end, but there was parts our set piece, our scrum was letting us down. Leicester scrum when they're on, you're struggling straight from the start. It's easy field position. If you're going to get pens from your scrum, which Leicester do, they can just march you up the field, which is quite daunting. But like Law said, you need to try and survive that. We're all a lot smarter these days. There's things you can do to sort of help you in the set piece, but that can only go a certain way.
I think the challenge and the thing that Ali Heifer would have been really pleased about is that they've got themselves Chiefs got themselves in a bit of a hole at the weekend where the game was slipping away from them. But they did this against Leicester. They found a way on the field of working that out and coming up with the right solutions, not waiting until Monday morning till the debrief and going, well, why didn't we do this, this and this? Same with Leicester. Leicester were in a bit of a pickle after 20 minutes, and yet they hung on in there and they found a way of getting the solutions at the end of the game. And that brings us sort of nicely on to Saracens, where, they were terrible in the first half. Nothing they did was anywhere near the standards they set. But Owen Farrell and co kind of found a way of turning it around. And that's what really good sides do. It's not about waiting till you're in the debrief on Monday morning and going, well, why didn't we do that? It's about coming up with the solutions either at half time or halfway through the second half. And Saracens did exactly that, really. When you're 36-20 down against a team as good as Gloucester, you shouldn't really be winning that game, but they did.
What did you think of it, Steve?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Lol actually. Farrell? Obviously Mark McCall said afterwards he lives for those moments. Has he got to play it at 10 now for England?
Well, look, I've been very clear about it. I'm not Eddie Jones and not the England coach, but if Manu and Slady are fit, I think Farrell starts for me at 10. He's a test match animal. He's just and I would have Marcus on the bench and I bring him on. And I do believe that both of them can coexist on the same rugby field. I just don't think starting them against some of the top teams necessarily works as well as it can. I think Owen is a much better 10 than he is a 12, and there's room to have two of them in the squad. So that for me. But obviously, we've been forced down that route because Manu has never managed to stay fit. But hopefully, touch wood, he seems to be in great nick at the minute. Henry played his first game at the weekend, and that for me would be England's sort of first choice 10, 12, 13. But then I didn't play in the back, so people pay very little attention to that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. How good was Val Rapp? This is a right old tongue twister, isn't it? Rapapa Ruskin. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right now. How good was he? Have you ever kicked a ball the way he did to chase it up on the pitch?
Yes, you have, Luke.
No, never, mate, never. I've actually kicked the ball once in an LV Cup game. Fair few years ago.
Yeah.
We
I love how
really
you
get away-
remember as well.
because we don't get away with kicking at our place. If I kick, they'll probably get dropped.
I mean, he is a very good player, but he's got a bit, there's some very good loose heads in that England squad, and that's the reality of it. If he can put a run of games together for Gloucester that lasts more than about 5 or 6, then he's got a great chance. But there's some really, really, I mean, Mako, Ellis, there's some top quality, props and right across that front row. But it's a good win for Saracens. Farrell's birthday, and he's back in the England squad, and business as usual for them, really.
Yeah. Okay. So we move on then. Worcester welcomed Newcastle to 6 ways. At the time now that we're recording this, we're still not certain about Worcester's future. But if that is their last game, we hope that it's not at home, obviously. What a great way for the players to make a final statement.
You felt Sarah for them, because it was a bit of a funeral atmosphere there, really. I mean, I'm led to believe that Steve Diamond gave him a vote on the Friday as to whether they would play, because they didn't have to
really?
play. And the players unanimously said, of course we're going to play, because there's all sorts of issues around insurance. If they get injured medically, what happens to them if there's no physios at the club, etc. So no player had to play, but they obviously all voted unanimously to do that. And they've left their mark. I mean, it didn't sound good from what Steve Diamond was saying, that in the short term that things will be, he's given them a week off, which kind of says everything really about what he thinks will happen. And if I was reading between the lines, I think looks like they will be going into administration, but he feels there might be something further down the line. So fingers crossed. As you said, they played very well. What's going on with those lime jerseys from Newcastle, by the way? Where have they popped
I
up
like
from?
them.
I mean, I thought Steve, you borrowed one. You're wearing
one on.
I like them. Although, to be fair, I've got to be honest, your kits have been class over the years. I've loved some of your European kits. They've been brilliant. Which brings in your favourite one?
I like the pink one. We had a pink one back in the day, and the purple one. Yeah, I like them too.
I feel like we should talk more about kits in rugby. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, let's talk Harlequins, Exeter then, and that kind of just rounded off, didn't it? A fantastic weekend of matches. Sunday's game, Luke, between yourself and Quins down at Sandy Park. I think it was probably as exciting as rugby gets, from a 31-7 lead at half time to surrendering it with 20 minutes to go and then win it again down to 14 men and the clock in red. It was a real roller coaster, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was mental, if you ask me. Going into half time, first half, obviously things were coming off for us. We were really on top. We got a decent point lead. We were scoring tries. Everything was going really well. Coming into half time, boys weren't too happy. We knew we had another half to do, another job. And we just sort of started crumbling. I think as soon as our D systems stopped working, boys started doing things that they thought would solve things, if you understand, because it's a new system for us. And then, we just couldn't really get a hand on the game again. They were up in the set piece, they were scoring tries, their boys were missing tackles. It was a pretty scary place to be. Obviously, at that point, I was on the bench, so I could have no impact in the game, so it was even worse for me. And we'll probably speak about it in a minute, but the last minute try obviously was pretty mad. We were on our 5 metre line, probably 3 or 4 phases going nowhere. And next minute we're up the other side scoring.
Luke, one player that has had an impact, Patrick Schickling, who's obviously made the England squad as well. I wouldn't say he's come from nowhere, because he's been around a little while, but he scored the winner against Leicester. He had a huge role to play in that try. Managed to keep his left and his right arm and leg on the field of play. I don't know how he did that, because that was close call. But just give us a little insight into him and the impact that he's had.
He's good. I think the summer tour for him has definitely helped him a lot. When he first came, obviously he's still young now, but he was really young at the time. He was good. He was okay, should I say? Powerful in the gym, real strong, proper athlete. But I feel like the last sort of 6 to 12 months, he's really put his foot on the gas. I feel like him going down to Pirates on loan definitely helped out his set piece. And now getting some games for us, being on the bench, just getting a bit more confidence. I feel like he's a confidence player. So like I said, with the Australia tour, him getting selected for that has then given him more confidence. And I feel like, he's not getting ahead of himself, but he's definitely going the right direction, which is nice.
Did you have a better view of the, I'll put it in inverted commas, forward pass than the TMO.
No, it wasn't.
Harlequins weren't happy though, were they?
It wasn't forward.
Ali Heffer said his hands were going backwards, but the ball might have drifted slightly forwards. Well, either it's not forwards, or it is. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Do
you know what though? Who was the player that caught it? It was Pat. So Pat actually had to stop to catch it, which gives you, which I think was the reason why it was given as a back pass. And the referee was right in line with it as when it happened. And the TMO, I think they got to the right decision. Had the game been played at Harlequins, it probably would have been
the other way around.
It was one of those that was definitely a very popular decision at home, and it would have been away from home. But I think I don't think Harlequins can grumble. They've rolled the dice on so many occasions in that situation, and they've come out on top. So it's just one. They still came away with 2 points, and I think everyone left thinking that they'd watched a thoroughly brilliant game of rugby.
How's the feeling? What's the feeling like at the moment, Luke? Because I think there was a feeling, wasn't there, at the end of last season, that you guys didn't kind of hit your own or reach your own expectations, that you let yourself down a little bit last term. Did it? When you touched upon it at the start with us, but does it feel different? Does it feel like a different environment at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. Sort of had a few debriefs last season. There's sort of 6 or 7 of us in the leaders group, and we sat down with the coaches and sort of planned ahead for this year. And like I said, pretty much everything has changed as much as it can do. I feel like last season we were sort of divided to a certain extent, players, coaches, physio. We sort of weren't one team, whereas this year it's definitely better. And again, the boys are just happy to be in. I feel like the work they did in pre-season, they got run ragged, but they all came through it. And I think that's definitely made the bond stronger. We got a lot of new players in. Some boys are slotting in well, some boys, taking a bit of time, but I feel like that is definitely helping towards it as well. I feel like we're just all in it together now. Whereas previous seasons, maybe the Quins game after it, the chat would have been slightly different. Whereas this time, we're sort of happy for every point we get. We're going back to sort of when we first came to the Prem. We started taking certain Prem games for granted, I think. Whereas now, all we speak about is any points we get, especially away from home. Any points we get at home, especially a 5-point win, is massive. And that's just going to tally up for the end of the season.
Do you like the new logos?
I don't mind it. It looks a bit like Knowlesy and Ryland, doesn't it? Put together. So, but I'll go with it, mate. I'll go with it.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. Okay, then. So, shall we then decide which player from the weekend was outstanding? So many incredible performances this weekend. The rugby was brilliant. Lawrence, who are you going for?
Well, I'm going to go for an older gentleman. I think he's about 35 years of age. He plays prop. His name's Dan Cole, and I just think when you retire from international rugby or you're stood down and you're no longer picked in the international team, the motivation to play at that level is quite tough, but he's got himself in great nick. Probably the best shape I've seen him in for a long time with their new S&C coach, and he was outstanding at the weekend, scrummaging, but he was carrying as well. He was, trying to get back to make tackles. I just thought his all-round game was superb. So he's my outstanding player of the week on Nat King Cole.
I loved Austin's line when I asked, how old is Dan Cole? And Austin said something like, I don't know, but I think Harry Potter is putting a spell on him every year to make him a few years
Can't
younger.
do anything to Austin's hair, can he? The old.
No, exactly. He doesn't say many funny things, Oz, but I thought that was quite amusing. Steve, how about you?
It has to be Luke Cowan Dickie, doesn't it? 47 outstanding minutes. No.
Outstanding.
Outstanding.
Thanks.
Well, we want him to come back on again. I'm going to go back to Friday night. Actually, Lowell's old team, Wasps. I thought both Willis brothers were outstanding. Tom obviously got man of the match, but actually, Jacob Umaga at fullback. I loved his performance on Friday night. Set up 3 tries, 2 long passes, 19 points. I thought for me he was.
Looks like he's been to Crediton to have his hair cut as well. By the look of him, he's had a whole bottle of that hair fluid on his hair.
Hair fluid.
Works, anyway.
It's called bleach, Lawrence. It's called bleach. Hair fluid.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Did you never have your hair bleached back in the day then, Lowell? No.
Mate, I did it myself with food colouring. That's probably why.
You weren't a new romantic. No.
didn't go so well. Don't try that at home.
Okay, Luke, have you got anyone for us?
Yeah, obviously I'm going to go with my guy Chris, number 7, the Welsh guy from the weekend. He scored 2 tries. I feel like, and he's only young. He's still really young, but the way he performed on the weekend, it's like he's been playing loads of games. So, and to get the last, obviously, match-winning try. So yeah, for me, it's Chris.
He loves playing out in the wing, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been.
He does, mate. He does.
20 years
well,
age.
it's either him or Harry Williams on the wing, and you decide. You decide who you want.
I was actually going to go maybe for Chris or Luke Northmore. I thought he was good,
Yeah,
but I think I'm and obviously Dan Coates, but I think I'm going to go for Billy Sarr actually, just because like I'm emotional and I just love the whole story of Worcester winning at the weekend. And I just thought it was a really accurate display, and for what they've been going through recently, I just thought it was a really good performance. So there you go. Okay, so those are the outstanding players done. So should we look ahead really quickly to next weekend then? Quick chat through round 4. Let's make a few predictions. Newcastle host Bristol at Kingston Park. It's not been a great start for them, but they are at home. What do we think will happen there, Steve?
I think Brownie summed it up for us last week, really, where Newcastle are, and you can't see anything but a Bristol win. I'm afraid they're 4 out of 4 for Bristol.
Okay, Worcester travel to Gloucester. Let's go to Luke on this, shall we? Worcester, Gloucester. Luke?
Obviously, I'd like to say Worcester, but I feel like Gloucester, especially at the home patch, playing them in the past, they're a tough outfit to beat at home.
London Irish Bath, how are we seeing this one go, Lawrence? Is it tough to call?
Do you know what? It's difficult to call because I think Bath will be. I just think then that they've got to stop leaking tries, and if there's one team that scores tries, it's London Irish, and so I think that they've got a lot of work to do on the training park, and I'm not sure how much of that you can get done in a week with some of their key players missing. So I do see London Irish bouncing back and winning that one. Could be a very high scoring game because Bath seem to be conceding at least 30 to 40 points a game. So I think it'll be a high scoring match.
Okay, so Sale welcome Exeter, who no doubt we've heard will be buzzing after yesterday. Both teams unbeaten, Steve. I mean, this promises to be a really good contest, doesn't it, this one?
It does. It's a really tough one to call.
Remember I'm saying, right?
Yeah. I'm actually going to say that Luke's going to score the winning try as time expires. Although
on the 47th minute.
Yeah, exactly.
46-30.
No, I think that's the Chiefs look really good, refocused, repurposed. There's obviously a lot of belief there. It'll be a tough match at Sale, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs away win.
Happy with that, Luke?
Yeah, very happy, mate. Yeah. If anything else, I'd have hung up.
So you've already got two more games to go, so I'll hang up yet. All right, Saracens, Leicester. I mean, that's another one to look forward to. Another matchup between 2 unbeaten teams. Who'll be the most confident, Luke, going into this, do you think?
I don't know. I'd say Leicester will be obviously quite confident. Last time they played was the final, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I don't watch much rugby, as you know. But they come out top. And their set piece is going well. But again, Saracens and Leicester, they both have good set piece. I think it's going to be tough. I think it'll be close. I'm going to have to say Saracens, I think. If it's a close one, and there's a couple of minutes to go, Sarries always come out top. And
last but not least, Northampton travel to the Stoop, Lawrence. Both teams in good positions to come away with a win last weekend, but they didn't. So who's coming out on top of this one?
What? I think it's a really interesting one to call because similar styles of rugby. They like to get the ball out into the wide channels, but Quins are a tough team to beat at home. So I'd go with Quins just, but. I think Alex Dombrandt's still out injured, isn't he? He's not in the England squad. I think he's actually quite key to. He does a lot of things that they've got some great players in their pack, but he does a lot of things that those players can't do. So if he's missing again this weekend, Northampton still have a very good chance of winning that.
Okay, so should we put our guest then, Lawrence, under the spotlight?
Yeah, I think we should, Luke. Hope we don't embarrass you in any way. I think you might have listened to last week's questions, but they're quite quick, so don't need to think too much about them. Your full name, please?
Luke Anthony Cowan-Dickie.
Anthony. All right, Tony, what's your favourite takeaway?
5 Guys.
5 Guys. So any celebrity crush? Obviously, before you got married, any real celebrity crush?
I haven't actually got one there.
Okay, I can understand that. What was the last film you watched? What was the last movie you watched?
The last movie, I can't actually remember the last movie, but I'm watching that Jeffrey documentary on Netflix. I don't know, Jeffrey, whatever his name is.
Sarah knows that. She watches everything.
I love a bit of Netflix.
What did you have for breakfast when you were up with your little son Arlo?
I just had a shake this morning.
Did you?
Fasting. Yeah.
Have you got an obvious nickname, or do you have a couple at the club?
Dickie, mainly.
What about Luke Cowan Dickie? I read that. That didn't stick, did it?
Nah, it stuck for about a month. Yeah, about a month. It still comes up every now and again.
Okay, who is the most famous person in your phone other than your next door neighbour?
I was going to say him. Robin Cowlin.
There we go. And who would play a film? Who would play you in a film of your life?
Jack Black.
That's a great shout.
Well, that probably answers the next question. Who's the funniest person you know?
Well, I don't know him, but Jack Black, yeah.
Are you a dog or cat person?
Dog.
Okay. Definitely. Do you have a dog?
I have 2 French bulldogs, yeah.
And I don't know why I knew you were going to say you had French bulldogs.
Well, they say that dogs look like their owners, don't they?
You'll have a Great Dane, then, won't you?
I wish. What's your favourite karaoke song from the 2016 talent contest? Now, do you have a karaoke song? What did you sing in your first?
Now it'd probably Elvis Presley. It'll be an Elvis Presley song. Actually, Suspicious Minds probably. Yeah.
Was that your
first? Have you seen that film? Yeah. Have you seen the film?
Sorry, no, I haven't actually seen it. No.
Good.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
And who would be your ideal which superhero would you most like to be? That's the one I was going to ask. Batman.
Yeah, I'll go Superman. He's Superman by far. Yeah.
Exactly. Who's the best rugby player of all time? Who's your all-time best rugby player, or who do you think is the best rugby player of all time? Or who's the hooker that you watched growing up that you really, really thought that really got you excited about rugby?
Oh, I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
it was the Kiwi hooker, Lam. Literally years ago. I can't remember his name now.
Sean Fitzpatrick, Norm Hewitt.
No, a bit, not as laid back as that.
Oh, okay.
I reckon he was playing when I was coming through.
Mialamu.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, he got about 200 caps for New Zealand. He was a very good player. And what has been your most memorable rugby moment? You've had a few. You've been capped for England. You've done the double. What's been the one that sticks in your mind and you think, I wish if I could. It never got any better than that.
Probably the double. It's weird because it's 2, but that year, the sort of the last 2 weeks of that year.
Yeah. I think that's pretty special. I think that we can accept that. I think that's a very nice moment. Listen, that's all for this episode of the Rugby Podcast, supported by Fuller's London Pride. My thanks to Sarah and to Steve. Thank you.
Yeah, and a thanks to Luke CowanDickie, of course, for being such a great guest. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget to follow us and make sure that you don't miss a single episode. And if you like them, when you hear them, then please give us a wonderful rating.
Remember, you can watch the full extended video podcast of today's episode at londonpridebeer.co.uk.